We are a professional services business. Our biggest problem and our most awesome thing is people. We can't grow without people. So we can't go from a $5 million business to a $10 million to a $15 million business without adding more heads in. Well, we haven't been able to. At 50 or 60 people, it's quite getting to that bigger size business. And, we've fluctuated a few times, and it's cash flow and it's payroll, and it's just, you don't want to overinvest. You want to hire. If the leads start to slow down, then it can really affect you, and you don't want to go through restructures. So you want to grow at the right rate. We work in really high pressure situations. We're dealing with people's data and their business. We're putting the wings on a plane in midair because they're getting off one CRM and onto another. They're not stopping selling. Their business has got to keep going. So it's growing at the right rate.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Ways to Wealth. Today I am joined by Nick. We have just spent a bunch of time chatting, done a podcast offline while I was setting up. Here we are. Well, why don't you tell us, who you are and where you came from, what brings you here?
Awesome, thanks, Charlie. So my name is Nick O'Neill. I'm currently one of the co-founders of an agency called Hype and Dexter. We're a HubSpot or digital transformation business. We started agnostically. I'm 50 years old this year, just turned 50. I live in One Tree Hill. I've got 4 kids, two of mine and 2 bonus ones, and my partner Amber. So Hype and Dexter keeps me pretty busy.
Yeah, okay. So you're focused on basically helping businesses integrate technology to improve their customer experience and optimize their revenues and improve the efficiencies through a tool like HubSpot. And are you guys exclusive with HubSpot, and that's your playground?
Yeah, absolutely. We started 7+ years ago agnostically. So we did Active Campaign, Sharp Spring, Marketo, quite a few of the others. So previously the founders, so all 4 founders had worked in different businesses together, GrabOne probably being one of the largest ones. We've been through pretty lumpy tech projects on client side, bought some of the bigger legacy CRM stacks. Probably hadn't got what we expected, promised the penthouse, got stuck in a parking garage for a few years. Every time I wanted to go up a level, cost a bit more.
Right.
So our original vision was to help Kiwi businesses realize their potential through technology.
Yeah, okay.
And we felt, because we could see that out there, the utility company, the large tech companies, the banks, they had a big tech stack, which they were spending a lot of money on. And really, it was just about personalization and relevancy and getting, the right message to your customers in the right way. And now we could see that new technology was enabling that. And, we wanted to get that in the hands of people, but also do it in a better way. Like not over-engineer, just make it really customer-centric and easy for the users. That was kind of the original concept.
Yeah, cool. I mean, we've definitely spent a lot of time in our business thinking about that whole process of CRM and how, to engage with your client, how to nurture the client, and how to obviously make your business more efficient so that you can ultimately be more successful in a more competitive environment, especially as a startup or an SME where you are under-resourced. You need to find any way possible to have some sort of edge or arbitrage so that you're getting more bang for your buck.
Absolutely. And also you're busy running your business on a day-to-day basis, right? Like if you're the sales guy or you're wearing both hats, you're the P&L, you're the CFO, you're running the marketing, like picking up a new piece of software or learning a new piece of software or having something that increases your admin is not smart, right? So you've got to use your time wisely, and you need something that's really simple and easy to use or enables you or adds, time to your day and doesn't sort of drag you down or bog you down with admin.
Yeah. And you mentioned that there was 4 of you that started the business. And is it still 4 of you in the business?
Yeah. So we've gone from, 4 of us originally to we've got about 55 staff across Australia and New Zealand. But so Romy Dexter is the technologist. So she's the Dexter in Hype and Dexter. Ryan Watkins is our CEO and the money guy. And Alex McCall's our CMO, and I'm kind of the sales guy. So I'm I think the fancy term CRO, but really I'm just head of sales, and I've been a sales guy for most of my life. So,
yeah, interesting. That's a good, well-rounded team.
Oh, it's critical. Like I couldn't. I was thinking when we first had a yarn, it was like I couldn't start a business by myself. Like I just don't have that like I haven't got all of those skill sets. Probably got the sales and marketing kind of covered. Operations, yeah, but not to the degree or level. Running a P&L, it'd certainly be where my shortfallings show pretty quickly. So finding like a team of people, and it's often where businesses fail too, right? The founders or the
relationships break down.
and if you can't work together and have honest conversations and and you don't fit into each other and complement one another, then you can be destined to fail unless you're really nuggety and you hustle and you keep going, which we have to do.
Yeah, which says that there's a resilient side. And often it is, a lot of it is around obviously putting yourself in a position where you can't lose and you can't stop, which really helps. But yeah, I mean, obviously giving up is a major reason for failure, right? You just don't quite have the next step. Um, but having a team of four it's quite a big founding team in a sense, right? Like I think it's of the larger side. You think 2 to 4 is kind of your sweet spot of founding team. Any larger than that, and it's like that's a lot going on, especially for a small business. Kind of six. If you have 6 directors, it's 6 directions. Potentially, obviously, you all want to be in the same direction, and that's where larger founding teams kind of get this multiplier effect, right? It may be. So that's cool. By the sounds of it, you may not have started a business if the kind of serendipitous moment of you are all starting kind of came together.
Yeah, I think so. I was quite happy getting a salary. I was also quite happy being a sales guy before I became a sales manager.
Those guys get commissions, right? So
Yeah.
you were kind of always got skin in the game in a sense, right?
And many years ago, when I was just a sales guy, I earned way more than I did as a founder. Our first 3 or 4 years, that it was a 50% drop in salary. It was some months not getting paid at all.
Yeah.
We had to make payroll. Like that was critical that the people we were hiring, they had mortgages and families and car payments and stuff. So making sure that we hit payroll was, and we slid pretty close. We had really great support from bank.
Right.
We did a lot of things. We hustled really hard just to get through some of those initial 2-3 years.
Yeah, that's really cool. And did you have any entrepreneurial kind of things when you were young, or was it really just the right team at the right time? And I mean, there were probably some appeals to being a business owner, but it really was the kind of combination, the timing, and the people around you.
I think so. If I go back to my childhood, like my mum was hardworking. So she was a theatre nurse. She worked 12-hour days. She'd drop us off at kindy before the other kids got there in the dark. She used to drive off quite some mornings crying, and she'd pick us up. We'd go to kindy, we'd go to school, Beach Haven Primary, we'd come back to kindy. The other kids would go home and we'd sit in the lounge of the family who owned the kinder care upstairs, and mum would pick us up when it was dark, and that went on for, quite a long time. So she worked hard.
Yeah.
And I think that hard work ethic was sort of drilled into me. The entrepreneurial side probably didn't come till much later. I left New Zealand at 19 after a bit of a failed university, 6 months at AUT, where I pretty much just spent most of my time at Shadows Bar rather than actually going to lectures. So I saved money, worked at National Bank to get some coin together in the call center, learned how to deal with unhappy customers or people who were stressed, and went to Europe. I worked in a pub. I earned £3.50 an hour, and that wasn't enough to get by, So got on the hustle and had a few side hustles and kind of just got a bit of an idea of working for myself or doing things and earning an hour. Yeah, yeah. I think when I got, I got back to New Zealand, I had a mate who was painting before I went back to university. He had a painting business, new builds, and we did paint. And then he went overseas, and I kind of took over for a little bit, just a couple of old out. And I had mates working for me, but it was good, like it was good to do that. The real entrepreneurial kind of like, I worked for Shane Bradley at finder.co.nz, and then later at GrabOne. And, just that absolute determination and drive and vision of seeing something and going for it. He had a bit of a Me Too strategy where Finder was a Me Too to Yellow Pages become painful enough that the incumbent has to buy you. He was doing the same with seller.co.nz, was a Me Too to Trade Me, which would eventually have become painful enough that they would have bought him as well, until he saw Groupon in the States, doubled down, flipped seller out, flipped into GrabOne, and within a few weeks he kind of had a platform up, and within a month he bought movie tickets and sold them and got a database, and then all of a sudden it was away, and we went from 0 to 100 million very, very quickly. I think I was the third employee, like the third salesperson there, third or fourth.
And who were you selling to? You were selling to the
merchants. So it was, and it came after that GFC, like that first global financial crisis. It was a new way of advertising without having to put any money down. We'd go to a restaurant or a Massat or the Sky Tower and say, hey, you don't pay us anything. We've got a database of 50,000, 100,000, soon to be 1 million. We're going to send out an email with your brand on it. You sell the thing that, your trip up and down Sky Tower for 50% off. We take the money, we clip the ticket, we give you the money, we send the consumers to you.
Yeah, right.
And we started with 1 deal a day, and then we were 2 deals, then we were 3, then we were 5, then we were in the entire country, then we were in Australia, then we were in Ireland, and we built our own technology stack, built our own headless CMS, our own CRM, our own admin, our own merchant center, until that started to creak. And that was my first. So I went from being a sales guy, where I was really happy being a sales guy. I loved it. I love selling. I love talking to, customers every day, to being kind of pushed into sales management.
Oh, okay.
Which I didn't think I would enjoy, but actually genuinely, realized the potential of, I could sell something and I could make this much for the company. But if I could get 5 or 6 people selling the same thing or the same amount, then we would triple and quadruple the outputs. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And would you say you're in more of a sales management role now?
Yeah. I mean, so in a small business, unfortunately, and we've tried this, you can't put middle management in. Everyone's got to wear a hat and sell, or, you run several different roles. So I'm still on the tools, I'm still selling, and I still love it. But I've got 2 or 3 direct employees, and then I've got my head of client services. She's got another 4 or 5 in her team. So, our sales team is varied, but I've got really good people, and I don't, when they start, you have to spend a lot of time on them, but you get to a stage where they're fairly autonomous.
Got it pretty good.
Yep.
Cadence was, once you've made the investment, someone to learn. And that's actually quite hard, I think. We're underappreciated in sales now because it takes a little bit of time to get someone onboarded. I mean, same with development when you're bringing on new engineers, but there's a whole thing that they can read. It's very, like the clear outcome. There's rules of the code. There's language there. Whereas with sales, you're kind of trying to work your way out. I found that, and we're not really in that phase of like scaling our sales or sales team. But obviously, we're making our first hires into the sales realm now. It's very interesting and quite a hard job to be the first salesperson in an organization. It's, you almost have to, that individual has to almost have like a entrepreneurial bent in them to be the first salesperson. Because you're kind of,
It usually is the CEO or the founder or the trailblazer, and they have to.
sales.
Yeah, I mean, you have to find a methodology and a way how you're going to go to sales has changed so much, though. Like, once upon a time, when I started Finder, or when I was in the UK, I did affiliate marketing. It was literally open the yellow pages or go onto Google, choose an industry, ring 100 people, get through to 20 of them, get 10 proposals or emails out, close 2 of those. Okay, well, that's worth $1,000. Every phone call's worth £2 or $5. Okay, just make more phone calls. And it's just the law of averages and numbers. And, but you could, once upon a time, if I wanted to buy a kitchen, I'd open the yellow pages and go, oh, kitchen studio, big ad. I'll ring them, tell me about kitchens. Well, then the internet came, and people, I wanted to know more about slate and tile and splashbacks and architectural hardware before I went to somebody. And if I was going to get a kit, yeah, now you want to know, like you want to research, you want to understand. And that was the advent of kind of inbound marketing, is like, how can we get our comparison of LG versus Samsung TVs, but control the narrative, and we know where they are in the funnel. And, so it changed. I used to beat my chest and think that I'd closed this entire deal. It was all about me and marketing had nothing to do with it. Well, we can see now that there's been 30 or 40 different touch points between the first click on the meta right through to the closed one. And there's been emails and blogs and a podcast view, and, they've gone away. It's not a linear sales process anymore.
No, it's quite an interesting game to play. Sometimes you don't appreciate that, like how it takes, depending on what you're doing as well, what sale it. I do find that we have found that doing some of that old school stuff around kind of actually just picking up the phone and speaking to people is a really great way to get going, and you have like a low barrier. But then, you've got to have basically a bunch of ready-made like pathways that actually adds value to the client. And that's where CRMs have taken off, obviously. And many businesses in New Zealand still are massively underutilizing basically automation and CRMs in their businesses. And probably spending a lot more than they need to by having out-of-date systems.
Absolutely. But it's all cyclic. So direct mail might come back again because nobody's doing direct mail. I used to work for New Zealand Post letterbox channel. PO boxes were stuffed with all sorts of different shapes and DLE. And so there was too much. So people shut off. Unaddressed mail, junk mail, mailboxes full, too many of them, that people slowed down. Now it might work again for a little bit, but you've got to be omni-channel as well. You got to pick up the phone, you got to send emails, you got to SMS, you got to try different channels. And then a lot of it is that test and measure, but you have to have somewhere that can tell you what your return on investment is. Gone in the old days, if you had a company that was turning over 10 million, you were like, well, we don't really know if the marketing's working or not, because how would you? Oh, well, we're spending 50,000 in Yellow Pages. Well, it's been 70,000. Let's then do 10 Herald full pages this year. Oh, it went up, but you couldn't track whether it was. So it was great. There was just money everywhere because people were spending money. Now, ROI has meant that we want to know every single dollar spent. Did it turn into a customer? Did it turn into a marketing qualified lead, into a sales qualified lead? Where are they on the funnel? We can see all of that now, but it has meant that you have to prove your return on investment for every dollar you kind of spend.
Especially with like so much money being spent in the ad networks, because it's like the candy of advertising and marketing. It's like I get an instant hit of dopamine. All I have to do is buy the heroin, and I kind of feel like those ad networks, in a sense, kind of become like that for certain businesses, because obviously that's how they make money. And they might have a formula that works, then it means, well, if you ramp it up, it doesn't matter, you've got good unit economics.
I've worked with businesses who were spending 50K a month, and then they started spending 100K a month, and then they were spending 500K a month with Google because they showed their ROAS. They knew the formula, they could do it, and they could show that it would turn into.
The hard bit is getting to a point where you've got a working formula. And that's where you've got like the kind of trail of dead bodies, right? In essence. So we've kind of we've been dipping our toes in with paid, but we've been very focused for the last year since launch on organic content through the podcast, basically. And what that actually has meant is just a lot of one-on-one conversations where people know about our brand because we're having conversations. And then events has been quite a nice one for us as well.
Events have come back massively, and it's really refreshing. And that one-to-one, that personalized relationship, the thought leadership stuff. I mean, that depending on where you are, what business you do, whether you're selling pans or widgets, thought leadership might not be. But the things that you're doing, thought leadership is critical. Absolutely. Sure. But AI has changed the script completely. I was in Boston earlier on this year at HubSpot, and talking to them about, they saw their own SEM just drop off a cliff, their own inbound, their own organic, and obviously they've got visibility of a couple of 100,000 customers globally. Numbers down from search, social, meta. Social's actually still continuing on, but search is definitely down, and it's AI. And now in my marketing report, I can see ChatGPT as a line item. It's about the fourth or fifth. What we are seeing though, if you've got your AIO or your AEO going well, so you've got good content, it's searchable, the AI engines are picking it up, the conversion rates are really high.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's a whole investment there that needs to be done. I mean, we need to invest in that, but like you say, it's just so hard to work out how to do all the things. But you're right. I think that obviously there's now a new industry that's being built, which is how to optimize your content to be picked up by LLMs, which is very, very similar to being optimized for a search engine. So you kind of, you can see there as a living example of how AI will shuffle the board, but it's not necessarily removing pieces. Yep. So that's interesting. So what do you think the biggest challenges you guys have faced over the last couple of years in your business?
So we are a professional services business.
Yeah.
So we implement HubSpot. We've got CRM people, we've got developers, we've got marketers, so if a business wanted to get off Salesforce or Dynamics, we have to get all of their data across, we have to set up the platform, we have to build out their new process, but not like a lift and shift. Oh, we used to do it like that. So we have to design. Our biggest problem and our most awesome thing is people. We can't grow without people. So we can't go from a $5 million business to a $10 million to a $15 million business without adding more heads in. Well, we haven't been able to. And now with the advent of AI, it's because at 50 or 60 people, it's getting to that bigger size business. And we've fluctuated a few times, and it's cash flow and it's payroll, and it's just you don't want to overinvest. You want to hire. If the leads start to slow down, then it can really affect you. And you don't want to go through restructures, and you don't want to. So you want to grow at the right rate.
Yep.
And that's just so critical because we're a small business we're a family. Like the people that you work with, we work in really high pressure situations. We're dealing with people's data and their business. We're putting the wings on a plane in midair because they're getting off one CRM and onto another. They're not stopping selling. Their business has got to keep going. So it's growing at the right rate. So Hype and Dexter has been an incredible business. In December 2023, we were acquired by Avidly Group, which is the world's largest HubSpot partner, owned by private equity out of the Nordics. For us, so we had landed Lend-Lease, which is one of the world's, definitely one of Salesforce's largest clients in Oceania, and we helped them get off Salesforce and onto HubSpot. It was a really big move for their management team to kind of go from Salesforce tested, tried, very, but expensive, and like lots of total cost of ownership issues, and they were with Accenture. So picking HubSpot and Hype and Dexter was kind of risky, but they wanted to make that move, and they made the move for the 3 years in. They have saved a lot of money, and they've broken down silos. Being acquired by Avidly for us was this being part of something global. So it was going from being, a great Kiwi business, actually an ANZ business, to being part of something much, much bigger. And it was the next step for us. So, we've still got, the ownership shareholder, like we now, part of the M&A is we're now shareholders in Avidly.
Okay. So that's kind of how it's worked. So you guys basically got shares in Avidly in exchange for your own shares.
Yeah.
And what was that conversation like? How long did the whole process take with the founder?
Well, so Ryan has managed most of our M&A. And to be honest, like Hype and Dexter, we started it to be acquired.
Yeah. course.
we'd been through other businesses that were acquired and, people exited and made lots of money. We weren't necessarily looking to exit per se, but we were thinking about how we could be, go bigger and bigger and bigger. And so the M&A went on for ages. And it always does. We'd lose Ryan for extended periods of time because
And that was your strategy, was to dedicate Ryan to the process so that you guys could focus on running the business still. And then you guys had a aligned view on what you kind of wanted out of it. And then it just took a long time to get done.
and dance with a few different people as well. So, we had so Ryan and Romy had met Joachim, who was the chairman and is now CEO of Avidly Global, at Inbound at the conference. Got on quite well. He shared some of his vision around the business and where they were going, but we still were dancing with a few different partners. And you're not playing them off against each other, but you kind of are, because you want to get the best out of the value and the effort you put in, and I guess try and make up for some of the lost earnings or the.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's what it is the opportunity cost. So what was the process from starting? Like, how much was the length then from starting to then when you got that acquisition done?
Well, over a year.
Total? No, I mean from starting the business.
Till the
Hype and Dexter too.
probably 3-4 years in.
Okay, so relatively.
Actually, so we'll be 7 years now, December 23. So maybe 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, right.
We had actually, so at one stage we did sell 25% to Yellow Pages Group, which we actually bought back. And at the time we needed the funding, so we definitely needed that money to grow and take that next step. That was after about 2.5 years. And we were able to go to the Yellow offices, and I think a part of it was Yellow then was trying to diversify, away from the book and onto digital, and they were building websites, and they had a lot of customers who we could potentially leverage and work with. So it made a lot of sense then.
Okay. So you've kind of had this exit, but you've stayed on the ship, or you kind of migrated kind of ship, but you're still the same thing. So what's the plan for the next 5 years? What's success look like for you guys, or you in particular? Like, do you have a kind of your next kind of couple of steps mapped out in your head, or some idea of what you're thinking?
I think the next 18 to 24 months is to grow Avidly Global.
Yeah.
So I think Hype and Dexter has. So next year we will become Avidly APAC. So it'll be a rebrand, and this has been since just 23. There's still quite a bit of equity in our brand with HubSpot and in the market, and it's so didn't want to rush that process, but it's probably about time now. And really, it's about growing the entire group.
Yeah.
So we've got a really good engine down here in New Zealand. Really, really smart people, really technical. We've probably pushed over the last 5 or 6 years HubSpot further than it's been pushed before. We don't just implement CRM. We build, we do custom dev on top of it. We build web apps and customer portals and agent portals and also big front-end websites, but then really large websites that we're going CPQ, so configure, price, quote, like actually building e-commerce effectively on top. So HubSpot's growing incredibly fast globally. We're moving the likes of Lendlease from a Salesforce to HubSpot. It's not just SMEs anymore. In fact, the SME market for us, HubSpot's so easy to pick up and turn on yourself. If you use ChatGPT, there's so many knowledge base articles that you can kind of figure. In Act, they're making it much easier it's got pre-built recipes or workflows. So for us, it's about that full change management, taking large organizations, with 20, 30, 50, 100 plus salespeople and helping them on that journey. And then doing a lot more of the technical integration and config. And so for us, the next 12 to 24 is really growing the value of the group. We're owned by private equity. It's probably, you would think that at some stage
Working out their plans.
I think we're part of like a $9 billion professional services fund, and they've rolled up Salesforce agencies or, Microsoft partners, or, they've done those sorts of things in the past. So
So your job is to just focus on your part of the pie, grow it as much as you can, and you know, there's a private equity firm that's trying to get the best ROI for the group, and that's basically your focus, saying what you can control. But obviously those guys know how to flip businesses. So
and they just think on such a big scale. They're not down the weeds. They think at such high level. I mean, for us, we've got a good engine that we can rev and we can really grow. And I think that the market here will grow significantly in the next 2 years.
yeah,
Uh, it's not recession proof, but it kind of is. So if you're a growth company and you're a SME or a startup and you want to grow, HubSpot's fantastic because it's really agile and you can get into it quickly. If you're a really big business and you've been on legacy CRM and you're struggling with, every time I want to add a custom property, it's a developer and an architect and it costs and it's slowed down and we need to move fast, but we can't move fast. The market's moving. HubSpot makes total sense. You got to invest in the actual getting off your existing and onto that, but you'll be on a platform that you can move really fast. And so a lot of cost saving and moving from one down to HubSpot, and then all of a sudden you're seeing real value in it.
yeah. And I wonder, like as a I guess as a smaller bit, I guess like I totally get the rationale behind like your big arbitrage is to take bloated legacy costs and to you know get buy-in so that a larger organization can see that by going from A to B, they're going to get an efficiency increase. They're going to have easier lives, and they might save some costs. But like you said, there's a lot of entry-level capabilities now in the small to medium enterprise, in the solo entrepreneur startup business. Absolutely. Like there's a lot that you can do with not a lot of resources. What would you say in the average CRM experience today, like kind of like it's working today, it might not work next year? But what do you think is like the biggest bang for your buck when you like start a business and you're trying to utilize something in a CRM for the first time? Like I've got my own ideas about stuff that we've used, but have you got any thing that you've seen that like your your customers or people seem to be getting like a disproportionate kind of value from in the CRM ecosystems and maybe at large, not, you know what I mean?
I don't want to harp on about HubSpot, but for me, it's single view of customer. So, like, actually having all of your people be able to see Nick O'Neill is one Nick O'Neill in the CRM. So, with a Salesforce or a Dynamics or others, you've kind of got a technology that's been rammed together. So, Salesforce was CRM and they bought something and turned it into Marketing Cloud and Pardo, and they're actually different database tables that don't really talk to each other properly. In fact, HubSpot talks to Salesforce better than Pardo or Marketing Cloud. So even if you were starting off, like a Pipedrive or a HubSpot or a Zoho is going to be a lot more simple to get. Probably a Pipedrive and a Zoho is not going to be able to scale if you got big really quickly. Being able to, and it seems so simple to have one view of your customer. And that if you've got a service team or you are the service team and you've got a managed inbox and tickets or complaints or managed requests and that sits as a ticket against Nick O'Neill. And you've got deals or opportunities, and that sits against Nick O'Neill. So you've got a CRM with your customer in the middle. You've got a service hub and a sales hub or a ticket or a help desk or a service function. I think AI being built in now is everyone's using GPT, everyone's using Claude, everyone's using Copilot. If you've got a sales team and you're using them outside your CRM, you're not getting that value of it actually being inside your CRM. So a lot of the other big tech players that have, they'll charge you extra for the AI. HubSpot's actually just, it was called Copilot, now it's called Assistant. It sits there, just simple ones like prepare me for the next meeting. It'll search my entire CRM. It'll look at emails. It'll look at attachments. It'll look at all of the things that are in that CRM and it'll prepare me for that meeting. It's so good. So, so good.
Yeah. No, I definitely think that the richness of like understanding your customer and the handover between like someone else in your team that might have spoken to someone and yourself for us has been really beneficial. And then we've had some kind of we've done some quite cute integrations where similar simple things like, oh, if someone signs up to our site, I'll actually get a phone call and then will call them basically. And like, we just testing something like that's really fun, really interesting, really low hanging fruit. It's like, I think the cool thing about a CRM or automations, like, automation ecosystems in general, like a pipe dream, not a pipe drive, right? Which does like a bit like Zapier. You can have these, functions running that add like a lot of value and it doesn't take a long time. Like you can go and put in, oh, I'm going to make it so that when I get into a Google Meet, it's going to, and that one actually, it took us a bit longer to build that one, but, taking Gemini summaries and then putting them into our CRM so that we have an idea of every single meeting and what happened. So that's like one thing that we've done that was a bit finicky.
Yep.
At the time, but once it's working, you've got this function that just works for you all the time.
I think you've just nailed it though. Like, so if you want to make things easy, you've got to do a little bit of work, right? There's no such thing as a free lunch in technology. Technology is not, it should be easier, but it's not. And if you're not a technologist, you're like, oh, that spreadsheet should just fit into there. And why don't those things, but if you put the effort in, you'll save yourself hundreds, if not thousands of hours by just doing that and thinking it through and thinking why that and how we do it. Make.com and Zapier and all these little sort of bits of middleware, they're great. CRMs and other software platforms are making it, they're going API first or even MCPs with AI, just making it really easy to connect into them so that you can have that single source of truth about your customer, so that it can do the summaries, and all of that is about just making it easier for your people to service the customer and personalize and have the right conversations, have robust conversations because they've watched the podcast or they've looked at this blog or they were trying to buy this house and now they're looking at a 5-bedroom in a different part of the country actually don't acknowledge that you're kind of stalking them by saying, hey, why are you looking at Holden? You told me you wanted a Ford, but actually just changing your conversation or your email marketing or the SMS going to them, personalization and relevancy, because customers don't want to be sold to anymore. Don't tell me what I need to buy, but offer me a different thing. Yeah. And that will enable the sale and then you can work together.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the pod. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, awesome.
Thanks, Nick. Awesome.
Thanks, Sean.
Cheers.